Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. I don't know about you, but I am finding these texts so fascinating as we work our way through the signs and wonders in Egypt. Before working on my commentary, I never really connected with these texts. It seemed like there was something more going on that I could never quite put my finger on. But the more I sunk myself into them and read them carefully and closely and paid attention to literary patterning, the more they came to life for me. So I hope that's happening for you as well. Today we're in Exodus chapter 8, verses 20 through 24. We're starting in on the fourth sign, the swarming insects. In the Hebrew text, if you're following along in Hebrew, it's verses 16 through 20 of chapter 8 because the verses are different. Before I read from my translation, I just want to give you a heads up of some things to listen for, because this is the beginning of the second cycle of signs. The first cycle includes the prologue of the staff into snake that swallows Pharaoh's snake, and then the water to blood, and then the frogs, and then the lice. And now we're starting in on row 2 of a chart where the second cycle unfolds. So we'll have 3 signs in a row that mimic the features of the first 3 signs. And we will see that those features are repeated, but not a lot of new features are added that set apart the second cycle from the first cycle. So the second cycle mimics the first cycle by continuing the elements that are found in a column. So the first sign in each cycle have shared elements, the second sign in each cycle has shared elements, and the third sign in each cycle has shared elements. So let me kind of walk you through what we should be watching for in this one, because it's the first of the cycle. We should expect a forewarning to Pharaoh. It will happen in the morning. Moses will be told to take his stand and confront Pharaoh. He will request that Pharaoh send away the people to worship Yahweh. The purpose of the sign will be expressed as so that you may know that I am Yahweh. The extent of the sign will be the whole land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron will be involved. And the result of all of this, or the response of Pharaoh to all of this, will be that he will make his heart heavy. So his heart will be heavy, guilty of injustice, or callous by the end. Those are the elements that unite the first sign in each cycle. The second sign in each cycle will also have a forewarning, but the time isn't specified. Pharaoh will also be asked to send away the people, but there will be something about tomorrow. Pharaoh will refuse to listen, and he will have a heavy heart at the end. The third sign in each of the cycles involves both human and animal, and we're told that Pharaoh did not listen, and we're told that his heart was firm. So those are the patterns that we're watching for in this first sign of this cycle. We're looking for the forewarning in the morning, take your stand, send away, so you may know. Whole land of Egypt, Moses and Aaron, and heavy heart. Those are the elements that are shared by each of the signs that are first in their cycle. The only new elements that are introduced in this second cycle are 2 things. One, there is now going to be a distinction between the Hebrews and the Egyptians. So when God brings a sign, it is going to affect the whole land of Egypt except for where the Hebrews are. The other new element that we'll notice is that there's an increased intensity that involves the ruin of the land and of people. So in cycle number 2, the bar is raised, the stakes are higher, the consequences are greater for Pharaoh's refusal to listen to Yahweh. So we'll see that in this sign. So now I'm going to read to you the first 4 verses of this sign, and you'll notice, I think, that the elements that I just read are present. So reading from my translation, starting in chapter 8, verse 20. Yahweh said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and take your stand before Pharaoh, indeed, when he is going out to the water, and say to him, 'Thus says Yahweh, send my people away, that they may serve me. For if you will not send my people away, I will surely send on you and on your servants and on your people and on your houses the swarm. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of the swarm, and even the ground on which they are, But on that day, I will treat differently the land of Goshen, where my people are staying. No swarm will be there, so that you may know that I am Yahweh in the midst of the land. I will put redemption between my people and your people. By tomorrow, this sign will happen. Then Yahweh did so. Heavy swarms entered the house of Pharaoh and the house of his servants. In the whole land of Egypt, the land was ruined by the swarm. Okay, did you notice the shared elements, the things that I listed that are common to the first sign of every cycle? You might even find it interesting to go back and reread the water to blood sign and watch for those same elements because they're all there. So you might have noticed as I was reading, there's an interesting play on words. God is asking Pharaoh to send away his people. And if Pharaoh refuses, then Yahweh is going to send a swarm. So he's sending because of Pharaoh's refusal to send. We're not sure, we're not told what kind of insect is swarming into the land of Egypt. It doesn't say. It's interesting that the word swarm appears 7 times in this section of the text, in this entire sign, not just the part I read, but the whole sign. 7 times. That might indicate that the narrator is trying to show the fullness of God's judgment. It's also possible that there's a wordplay going on with the swarm. The word in Hebrew is arov, and later we're going to have a whole mixed multitude of people leaving Egypt with the Israelites, and they're called an erev. So same consonants, different vowels, arov, erev. So it's possible that this is foreshadowing, again, there's all kinds of echoes through these narratives of the proliferation of problems that result from Pharaoh's attempt to prevent the proliferation of the Hebrews. In verse 22, you noticed a distinction. The swarm is not going to be everywhere in Egypt. It will not enter the place where the Hebrews are living. That distinction tells me that what we're reading is a creation text. You might remember in Genesis chapter 1 that God is separating light from dark, sky from water, sea from dry land. Each of the days of creation, each of the first 3 days are works of separation where a distinction is being made and God is organizing creation. And here in Egypt, God is distinguishing between the Egyptians and the Hebrews, which sets us up to appreciate that the Exodus is a new work of creation. I have a whole essay on Exodus as a creation narrative in the Festschrift for John Walton. I will put a link in the description below so that you can check that out if you're interested. It's called The Lost World of the Exodus, Functional Ontology in the Creation of the Nation of Israel. Okay, 2 more insights I want to raise in this week's video. Pharaoh had requested in chapter 8, verse 9, that the frogs go away by tomorrow. He had specified tomorrow. But starting now and through the rest of the signs and wonders, the word tomorrow is always ominous, not a sign of deliverance, but a sign of judgment. So Yahweh announces that this will happen to Pharaoh. This invasion of a swarm of insects will happen tomorrow. So it's a time of anticipated judgment. We might even rewrite the famous song from the musical Annie, tomorrow, tomorrow, I'll judge you tomorrow. It's only a day away. Sorry for that. I just couldn't help it. That is the theme of the rest of the signs and wonders, is that judgment is coming tomorrow. And there's another way in which there's a warning about what's coming down the pike. And that is in verse 24. We're told the land was ruined. And this word ruined has to be hyperbole because insects don't ruin a land, although they could make things pretty miserable for a while. There's plenty of ruin that still awaits. So this is probably hyperbole, but it connects us back with the past and as well as the future. So the flood was described in Genesis 6, verses 11 through 13 as ruining the land. And the judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 18:28 and 19:29 is described as ruining the land. And so now the swarm is ruining Egypt, which probably is pointing back to these previous cases of judgment, God's judgment that devastates the land, and warning that if you don't change course and listen to Yahweh's demands and respond, things could get that bad. You could be wiped out the way the flood wiped things out, the way Sodom and Gomorrah wiped things out. And if we look ahead to chapter 12, in verses 13 and verse 23, the one who goes through the land of Egypt and kills the firstborn is called the ruiner. It's the noun form of the same verb that means to ruin, shachat. So the one who does shachat moves through the land of Egypt and ruins the firstborn. So all kinds of Easter eggs hidden in this text that show us that the narrator wants us to see how serious this is. God's warning to Pharaoh is exceedingly gracious and gentle in that the early signs and wonders are not all that devastating, but they hint at how bad things can be if he fails to respond. And so let's not dismiss the grace of God when he gives us gentle warnings and gentle reminders. Let's be responsive to those gentle reminders so that his judgment does not have to become intense. Have a great week.